1, the mission briefing and journey to HX-12. The command center of the SS Valor buzzed with activity, the soft hum of machinery and the focused conversations of its diverse crew blending into a symphony of preparedness. The air was charged with a sense of urgency and anticipation as the crew gathered around the holographic display. Captain Xalax, a towering Xanathian with a dark, chitinous exoskeleton and multifaceted eyes that glinted in the dim light, stood at the center. The rotating image of HX-12 hovered above the display table, casting an eerie green glow. "Attention, crew," Xalax began, his voice a deep, resonant rumble that commanded attention. "We've received a distress signal from the colony on HX-12. This planet, known colloquially as the Haunted Planet, has a reputation for strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena. Our mission is to investigate and provide assistance to any survivors. Prepare for departure." Volrinian First Officer Terrell, whose pale blue skin and bioluminescent markings gave him an ethereal appearance, stepped forward, his voice calm and measured. "I'll conduct a thorough systems check to ensure we're prepared for any anomalies we might encounter." Graxian Engineer Rock, a stocky figure with multiple arms and a rocky hide, let out a hearty chuckle. "You know me, Captain. I'll have this ship ready to face any spooky surprises. My unconventional methods might just save the day." Thren Medical Officer Sakala, with her serpentine lower body and delicate scaled features, nodded thoughtfully. "I'll prepare the med bay for potential casualties. We need to be ready for anything, especially considering the planet's reputation." The human, Jason, stood at the back of the room, observing the proceedings with a calm demeanor. Mid-30s, rugged and with a quiet confidence, he stepped forward. "I've heard that a fleet of humans is also on its way to assist the colony. Just thought you'd like to know we're not alone in this." Xalax nodded, his multifaceted eyes reflecting a myriad of colors. "Thank you, Jason. It's good to know we have additional support." As the crew dispersed to their stations, the SS Valor powered up, its engines emitting a low, powerful hum. The ship detached from its docking station and began its journey through the vast expanse of space toward HX-12. The initial stages of the journey were uneventful, the crew settling into their routines. However, as they drew closer to their destination, the atmosphere aboard the ship began to shift. Terrell was the first to notice the minor anomalies. "Captain, I'm picking up some fluctuations in the ship's electromagnetic field. It's minor, but unusual." Xalax's antenna twitched slightly. "Keep monitoring it. We need to be prepared for anything." The lights flickered briefly, casting long wavering shadows across the command center. Jason glanced around, his expression curious but not alarmed. "Anyone else feel like the ship is a bit uneasy?" Rock laughed, though there was an edge to his voice. "Just the ship settling in for a ghost story, right?" As the crew worked, a hushed conversation took place in the corner of the command center between Terrell and Scala. "Can you believe they let a human join us on this mission?" Terrell whispered, his tone dripping with disdain. "They're nothing but apes from the backwaters of Earth, savages born of dirt and muck." Scala's eyes flickered towards Jason, who was engrossed in his work. "They may be primitive, but they have a strange way of prevailing in the end. Still, we should keep an eye on him." Terrell nodded, begrudgingly acknowledging her point. "Perhaps, but I wouldn't trust him too much." Meanwhile, in another part of the ship, Rock was having a similar conversation with Vortex. "Do you think we can trust that human?" Rock muttered, his rocky hide shifting as he worked. "They're unpredictable, and who knows what he might do in a tight spot." Vortex's soothing blue light flickered thoughtfully. "Humans have a peculiar resilience, Rock. Despite their shortcomings, they often find a way to prevail. It's wise to be cautious, but also to recognize their potential." Rock grunted, not entirely convinced, but willing to consider Vortex's perspective. "I suppose. Let's just hope we don't regret bringing him along." As the SS Valor powered through space, The tension among the crew was palpable. The journey to HX-12 was fraught with an eerie sense of anticipation. As they broke through the planet's atmosphere, the haunting landscape of HX-12 came into view, shrouded in swirling mists that seemed to beckon them closer. The lights flickered again, casting long, wavering shadows across the walls. Jason glanced around, his expression curious but not alarmed. Anyone else feel like the ship is a bit uneasy? Rock laughed, though there was an edge to his voice. Just the ship settling in for a ghost story, right? Scala's serpentine form coiled slightly in discomfort. I sense a presence. It's faint, but it's there. We should proceed with caution. Vortex's voice was a calm presence amidst the chaos. I am detecting irregular energy patterns, Captain. It is advisable to maintain heightened awareness. Xalax nodded, his gaze fixed on the view ahead. Stay focused, everyone. It's just a planet. But the crew could feel it, an underlying tension that seemed to seep into their very bones. As the SS Valor continued its approach, the strange occurrences became more frequent. Shadows moved at the periphery of vision, soft whispers echoed through the halls, and the temperature seemed to fluctuate unpredictably. Jason, however, remained relatively unaffected. He moved through the ship with a quiet confidence, offering words of encouragement and reassurance to his fellow crew members. We'll get through this, he said softly to Scala, who nodded appreciatively. The journey to HX-12 was fraught with an eerie sense of anticipation. As they broke through the planet's atmosphere, the haunting landscape of HX-12 came into view, shrouded in swirling mists that seemed to beckon them closer. The crew braced themselves for what lay ahead, knowing that their mission was just beginning. Part 2. Arrival and Initial Exploration. The SS Valor descended through the dense atmosphere of HX-12, the ship's hull groaning under the pressure. Outside the viewports, the planet's surface was shrouded in a thick, greenish fog that seemed to cling to the ship like a living entity. The landing thrusters fired, and with a heavy thud, the ship touched down on the surface of the haunted planet. Captain Xalax's multifaceted eyes scanned the landscape, which was bathed in the sickly green glow of HX-12's twin moons. Prepare for disembarkation. Rock, Scala, Terrell, Jason, you're with me. The crew gathered at the airlock, each member adjusting their gear. The oppressive silence outside was broken only by the faint hiss of the ship's systems. Terrell glanced at Jason, his bioluminescent markings dimming slightly in disdain. Are you sure it's wise to bring the human along? They're not exactly known for their finesse in delicate situations. Rock nodded in agreement, his rocky hide shifting. Yeah, humans are more about brute force than anything else. I'd hate to see our mission compromised. Before Jason could respond, Scala intervened, her voice calm but firm. Despite what you think, humans have a knack for surviving and finding solutions in the most dire circumstances. Jason is here because he's proven himself. Xalax raised a clawed hand to silence the group. Enough. We need to focus on the mission. Let's move out. The airlock cycled open and the crew stepped onto the surface of HX-12. The ground beneath their feet was spongy and damp, giving off a faint, earthy smell. The twisted flora around them seemed to writhe and twist, as if driven by a malevolent will. Jason scanned the area, his face set in determination. Let's head to the colony's last known coordinates. As they made their way through the eerie landscape, the sense of being watched grew stronger. Shadows seemed to move just out of sight, and the oppressive silence was occasionally broken by distant, indistinct sounds, whispers, footsteps, or the faint rustle of unseen creatures. The abandoned colony loomed ahead, a cluster of dilapidated structures sagging under the weight of an unseen force. Doors hung ajar, windows shattered, and equipment lay scattered, abandoned in haste. The sense of desolation was overwhelming. Scala's serpentine body coiled slightly in discomfort. It's like they just vanished. There are no bodies, no signs of life. Terrell's tricorder emitted a series of beeps and clicks. I'm not detecting any life signs, but there are residual energy readings. Something happened here, something we can't explain. Rock approached a discarded datapad, his multiple arms deftly accessing its last entries. There's mention of unexplained phenomena, equipment malfunctions, hallucinations, and then nothing. Jason's eyes narrowed as he looked around. We need to find out what caused this. It's our only way to help. As they ventured deeper into the colony, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. The oppressive atmosphere pressed in on them, making it difficult to focus. Jason seemed less affected, moving with a calm confidence that stood in stark contrast to the unease of the others. Terrell couldn't help but voice his doubts again. Why is he so unaffected? It's almost unnatural. Can we even trust him? Scala glanced at Jason, her eyes thoughtful. Humans are strange creatures. They adapt to almost anything. Maybe it's that resilience that keeps him going. Jason overheard the conversation but chose not to respond. Instead, he focused on the task at hand, leading the way with a steady determination. They entered what appeared to be the colony's command center. The room was a chaotic mess of overturned furniture and broken screens. A large central console flickered intermittently, displaying garbled data and distorted images. Terrell approached the console, his fingers flying over the controls. I'm accessing the colony's logs. There might be something here that can help us understand what happened. The logs revealed a harrowing account of the colony's last days. Reports of strange shadows moving just beyond the periphery, sudden temperature drops, and an overwhelming sense of being watched. The colonists had tried to leave, but the planet seemed to conspire against them, sabotaging their efforts at every turn. Rock's voice was barely above a whisper. This place is a nightmare. Jason nodded, his expression grim. We need to be prepared for anything. Whatever happened here, we're not leaving until we find out and help those in need. As they continued their exploration, the sense of dread deepened. Every step felt heavier, every shadow seemed more sinister. The crew knew they were facing something beyond their understanding, something that would test their resolve to the limit. But they were not alone. Somewhere out there, a human fleet was on its way, bringing with it the hope of survival and the strength of humanity. And for Jason, that was enough to keep going, to keep pushing forward into the darkness. Part 3. The Haunted Environment and Psychological Horror. As the crew delved deeper into the colony, the eerie atmosphere of HX-12 seemed to close in around them. The twisted flora outside the structures seemed to move and whisper, their leaves rustling with an otherworldly cadence. Inside the colony, the walls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting, as if alive. Trell's bioluminescent markings dimmed and flickered as he scanned the area with his tricorder. The energy readings are off the charts. It's like the planet itself is alive and watching us. Rock, with his rocky hide shifting uneasily, muttered, "This whole place gives me the creeps. I've seen some weird stuff, but this..." Scala, her serpentine form coiled tightly, added, "We need to stay focused. Whatever is affecting this place, it's powerful." As they moved through the corridors, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Shadows darted at the edge of their vision, and the oppressive silence was punctuated by sudden, unexplained sounds. The temperature fluctuated wildly, sending chills down their spines. Jason moved steadily, his expression calm and focused. His presence seemed to provide a grounding force for the rest of the crew. "Let's keep moving. We need to find the source of these disturbances." They entered a large room that appeared to be a central hub for the colony. The air was thick with a palpable sense of dread, and the walls were covered in strange, pulsating growths that seemed to respond to their presence. Suddenly, Sakala gasped and clutched her head, her eyes wide with fear. "Do you hear that? The voices, they're screaming." Terrell's eyes darted around the room, his bioluminescent markings flashing erratically. Stay calm. It's just a trick of the mind. Rock, his multiple arms twitching nervously, grumbled, "A trick of the mind? This place is driving us mad." Jason approached Sakala and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Take deep breaths. Focus on my voice. We'll get through this together." Sakala nodded, her breathing gradually steadying. "Thank you, Jason. I don't know how you stay so calm." Jason gave her a faint smile. "I've faced my share of horrors. It's all about staying focused and working together." As they moved deeper into the room, the hallucinations intensified. The walls seemed to close in on them, and the whispers turned into screams. Shadows writhed and twisted, forming grotesque shapes that reached out towards them. Terrell stumbled and fell to his knees, his face contorted in terror. I can't take it. It's too much." Jason knelt beside him, his voice steady and soothing. "You're stronger than this, Terrell. Remember why we're here. Focus on the mission." Rock, despite his earlier bravado, was visibly shaken. Why is he so unaffected? It's almost unnatural. Scala glanced at Jason, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and admiration. "Humans have a way of enduring. They adapt to almost anything." Jason stood, helping Terrell to his feet. "We need to keep moving. The source of these disturbances is close. I can feel it." As they pressed on, the hallucinations became more personal, preying on their deepest fears and insecurities. Terrell saw visions of his homeworld in flames, his family consumed by the inferno. Rock was haunted by the faces of those he had failed to save, their eyes accusing and filled with sorrow. Scala saw her medical failures, the patients she couldn't save, their voices a chorus of agony. Jason, however, remained relatively unscathed. His nightmares were there, but he pushed them aside, focusing on the mission and his crew. "We're almost there, just a little further." In the heart of the colony, they found a chamber filled with pulsating, glowing plants. The air was thick with an energy that seemed to vibrate through their very bones. At the center of the chamber was a massive, pulsating growth, the source of the hive mind's influence. Terrell, his voice shaking, said, "This is it. This is what's been affecting us." Rock nodded, his fear giving way to determination. "We need to destroy it." Scala, her eyes filled with resolve, added, "But how? It's so powerful." Jason stepped forward, his expression grim. "We'll find a way. Together." As they prepared to confront the hive mind, the hallucinations intensified, their fears manifesting in increasingly terrifying ways. But with Jason's guidance and their combined strength, they pressed on, ready to face the darkness that awaited them. Part 4. The Discovery and Plan. The oppressive atmosphere in the chamber was suffocating. The walls seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, and the whispers had turned into a cacophony of screams. The crew stood at the center of the chamber, their faces drawn and pale, eyes darting to every shadow. Jason, his expression resolute, took a step closer to the pulsating growth at the chamber's heart. "This is the source. We need to destroy it to break the hive mind's hold on the colony." Terrell, still shaken but regaining his composure, nodded. "But how do we do it? That thing is immense and alive." Ruck, his multiple arms twitching with anxiety, added, "It's not like we can just shoot it. We need a plan, something that will disrupt its connection to the planet." Jason turned to Scala, who was scanning the growth with her medical instruments. "Scala, what do you see? Any weaknesses?" Scala's serpentine form coiled tightly as she analyzed the readings. "The growth is connected to the entire ecosystem. If we can find a way to sever those connections, we might be able to weaken it enough to destroy it." Jason nodded. "Rock, can you rig something up? Maybe an EMP or some kind of disruptor?" Rock's rocky hide shifted as he considered the options. "I can try. It won't be easy, but I've got a few ideas. Give me some time." As Rock worked on his makeshift disruptor, the crew kept watch, their senses heightened by the constant assault of hallucinations and whispers. Jason moved among them, offering words of encouragement and keeping their spirits up. Terrell, his bioluminescent markings flickering nervously, muttered to Sakala, "I still don't understand how he stays so calm. Humans are supposed to be weak, primitive." Scala glanced at Jason, her expression thoughtful. "Humans are more complex than we give them credit for. They have a resilience that's hard to quantify. Maybe it's their unpredictability that makes them so strong." Jason overheard but chose to focus on the task at hand. "Rock, how's it coming?" Rock wiped sweat from his brow, his multiple arms working frantically. "Almost there. Just a few more adjustments." As the crew waited, the hallucinations intensified. Terrell saw visions of his loved ones in peril, their cries for help echoing in his mind. Sakala was haunted by the faces of those she couldn't save, their pain a constant reminder of her perceived failures. Even Rock, usually so steadfast, felt the weight of his past mistakes pressing down on him. Jason, however, remained focused. He had his own fears, his own demons, but he kept them at bay, driven by a determination to protect his crew and complete the mission. "Hang in there, everyone, we're almost through this." Finally, Rock stood, holding a device cobbled together from spare parts and his own ingenuity. "This should do it. It's an EMP disruptor. It should sever the connections and give us a chance to weaken that thing." Xalax, his multifaceted eyes reflecting a myriad of colors, stepped forward. "Everyone, prepare yourselves. Once we activate the disruptor, we'll have to move quickly." The crew gathered around the device, their faces set with grim determination. Rock activated the disruptor, and a high-pitched whine filled the chamber. The pulsating growth writhed and convulsed as the EMP wave spread through the room, severing its connections to the planet's ecosystem. "Now!" Jason shouted, raising his weapon and firing at the weakened growth. The rest of the crew followed suit, their combined firepower focused on the central mass. The growth screamed, a sound that reverberated through their minds, but it resisted their assault, tendrils regenerating almost as quickly as they were destroyed. Trell's voice was filled with despair. "It's not working. We're not strong enough to destroy it." Rock cursed under his breath, his rocky hide quivering with frustration. "Damn it! We need more power, more firepower than we have." Scala looked to Jason, her eyes wide with fear and determination. "What do we do now?" Jason clenched his jaw, his mind racing. "We need to buy time. We can't destroy it on our own, but we can weaken it enough to hold it off until help arrives." Xalax's voice was steady despite the chaos. "Everyone, fall back, regroup and prepare for another assault. We have to hold out until the human fleet gets here." As they retreated from the chamber, the oppressive atmosphere seemed to follow them, the whispers and screams echoing in their minds. The crew regrouped in a nearby corridor, their faces pale and drawn but filled with a renewed determination. Jason took a deep breath, his eyes meeting each of theirs. "We're not alone in this. The human fleet is on its way. We just have to hold out a little longer." Terrell nodded, his bioluminescent markings flickering with renewed hope. Humans may be primitive, but they have a way of prevailing. Rock grinned, despite the tension, his rocky hide shifting with determination. "We'll hold the line. Together." Scala's serpentine form coiled tightly as she prepared for the next wave. For the colony. For everyone who's counting on us. As the crew steeled themselves for the next assault, the sounds of the hive mind's creatures grew louder, closer. The battle was far from over, but they knew they had to stand their ground, to fight with everything they had until reinforcements arrived. The chamber ahead pulsed with a malevolent energy, the hive mind's influence growing stronger by the minute, hearts and minds united in the face of the darkness. They would fight, they would endure, and they would prevail, because that's what humans and their allies did best. Part 5, Climax, Encounter with Humans and Escape. A crackling sound broke through the oppressive atmosphere, filling the chamber with a powerful voice. "This is Admiral Hayes of the human fleet. We've arrived at HX-12. Stand back, SS Valor crew. We've got it from here." Jason's face lit up with a mix of relief and determination. "You heard them. Fall back and let the humans handle this." The crew retreated to a safer position, their eyes wide with anticipation as the human fleet's ships descended from the sky, their sleek forms cutting through the thick greenish fog. Massive spotlights illuminated the ground, and squads of heavily armored soldiers disembarked, their weapons at the ready. Admiral Hayes, a towering figure in advanced combat armor, led the charge. "All units, prepare to engage. Target the central growth and any hostile entities. Use everything we've got." The ground shook as the humans deployed their arsenal. Advanced plasma cannons, EMP disruptors, and kinetic weapons unleashed a torrent of firepower on the pulsating growth at the heart of the hive mind. The air filled with the deafening roar of explosions and the sharp crackle of energy weapons. The growth writhed and screamed, its tendrils lashing out wildly in a desperate attempt to defend itself. Human soldiers moved with precision and coordination, dodging the attacks and focusing their fire on the most vulnerable points. Rock watched in awe, his rocky hide trembling. "I've never seen anything like it. They're relentless." Terrell, his bioluminescent markings flickering with renewed hope, nodded. "They're using brute force and intelligence. It's incredible." Sakala, her serpentine form coiled tightly, added, "They've studied this. They know exactly what they're doing." Jason, his eyes fixed on the battle, couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. They've got this. The humans unleashed a coordinated barrage, plasma, and EMP rounds, striking the growth with devastating effect. The hive mind's central mass convulsed violently, its tendrils flailing as the energy disruptors severed its connections to the planet's ecosystem. Admiral Hayes activated a comlink, his voice calm and authoritative. "Phase 2, commence!" A team of engineers rushed forward, deploying a series of portable generators and field emitters. As they activated, a massive energy field enveloped the growth, cutting off its regenerative abilities and trapping it in a web of disruptive energy. The hive mind shrieked, its form collapsing in on itself. The human soldiers continued their relentless assault, pouring every ounce of firepower into the central mass. The ground quaked, and the air crackled with raw energy. Sweat poured down the faces of the human soldiers, their muscles straining as they maintained the attack. The growth began to disintegrate, its once formidable structure reduced to a quivering, liquefying mass. With a final, earth-shattering explosion, the central growth collapsed entirely, dissolving into a pool of noxious goo. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the screams fell silent. The hive mind was no more. Admiral Hayes lowered his weapon, his voice ringing out with triumph. "All units, stand down. The threat is neutralized." The crew of the SS Valor stepped forward, their faces a mix of awe and gratitude. Xalax, his multifaceted eyes reflecting a myriad of colors, approached Admiral Hayes. "Thank you. We couldn't have done it without you." Admiral Hayes nodded, removing his helmet to reveal a stern but kind face. "We were happy to help. We researched this planet on our way here and found that it resembled an old human legend, a planet that consumed those who came near. We knew we had to act fast and with precision." Scala, her eyes wide with curiosity, asked, "How did you know how to defeat it?" Hayes smiled slightly. "Our researchers found ancient records describing a similar entity. We used that information to develop our strategy. It was a combination of brute force, intelligence, and the environment itself." Terrell, his bioluminescent markings glowing softly, stepped forward. "Humans, you always manage to prevail, don't you?" Jason, standing proudly beside his fellow humans, replied with a humble smile. "We just do what we can to help. It's never about being the best. It's about doing what's right. Rock, his rocky hide settling into a relaxed state, chuckled. Well, you certainly did it right this time. Thank you. As the human fleet prepared to depart, the crew of the SS Valor gathered around Jason. Xalax extended a clawed hand. You've proven yourself, Jason. Thank you for your resilience and leadership. Jason shook the captain's hand firmly. It was a team effort. We all did our part. Admiral Hayes turned to the Valor crew one last time. Take care. And remember, humans may be seen as primitive, but we always strive to do what's right and fair. We'll always help when we can. The SS Valor lifted off, the crew looking down at the now peaceful planet of HX-12. The mission had tested their limits, but they had emerged stronger, united by their shared experiences and the incredible resilience of the human spirit. As they entered the void of space, the crew knew that they had faced the darkness and prevailed, thanks to the bravery and ingenuity of their human allies. The legend of the haunted planet would live on, a testament to the strength and determination of those who dared to confront the unknown.